All right, good evening. Welcome to Fafsa night. My name is Dewana Bridges. I'm the college aim post-secondary access coach here in the building. I assist with going to college. Dr. Cox is in the back. She's our lead counselor. We have our parent liaison here. And Ms. Jackson is going to be the one actually walking through the FAFSA with us this evening. Now, it is line by line. I have recommended that if you are a student here, go ahead and write down the colleges that you're interested in attending and have the information sent to those colleges, because there is a place on this application where you're going to have to put your colleges, okay? Has everyone created an FSA ID? Yes, you have.
Yes, okay.
I know you have. Okay? All right. So if I could, you want them to go ahead and log in?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So with no further ado, Ms. Jackson is here to walk you through.
All righty. Woo. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakeisha Jackson, and I am one of the outreach representatives with Georgia Student Finance Commission. We are the agency that administers the Hope and Zell Miller scholarships and the grants. You guys are familiar with the Hope programs? Yes. All righty. So this evening, I am going to assist students and parents with completing the free application for federal student aid. This application is for federal and state aid, okay? You will have to submit this application every year. Parents and students will need to submit their part of the application. So, what I want you guys to do first, students, you are going to log in to your student aid account first, okay? So I want you to go to fafsa.gov, and I want you to log in with your username and password. Now, question, raise your hand if you, student, have not created your student aid account. Okay, that's the first step. You have to create an account first. Those of you who have not created an account, you will only be able to do so much this evening because it does take 3 to 4 business days for the federal government to verify your identity. So you will be able to start your application, but unfortunately, if you have not created your account prior to this evening, you will not be able to finish your application. So this presentation this evening is going to assume every student and parent has already created their account. This presentation does not go through how to create an account, okay? Now, those of you who need to create an account, it's pretty simple. You will need to use your personal email address, students, and then you're going to have your date of birth, your birth name as documented on your birth certificate, and your social security number. Students will invite their parents to complete the application. That's why we want the students to log in first. So students, raise your hand if you need a few more moments to log into your account. Okay, go ahead. Go to fafsa.gov. The same place you used, the same place you went to create your account, this is the same site you're going to use to access your account whenever you need to look at your account, okay? So every student, fafsa.gov, and parents, if you have an account, which you should, especially if your child is considered dependent, you will need to log into your account as well. But your student is going to do his or her part first, okay? So if you have not created your account as a parent, and you have 2 devices here this evening, parents, you can go ahead and either create your account or retrieve your account. What I mean by that is, you can only have one account. So parents, if you were ever in college, if you ever received any federal student loans or Pell Grant, or if you have other children who are in college and they received federal aid, then you already have an account. Even if it was 100 years ago, you have an account. Now, you may not remember that information, so you need to click on Forgot Username and Password, and the system will be able to look you up by your date of birth, your social security number, your name. Even if you use your maiden name or if your name has changed, the system can still look you up. It's the government. Okay? All righty. Anybody need assistance logging into their account? No rush. Take your time. You guys are good? Can I move on? You need help? Okay. Okay. Okay, so you were going to log in as a student. Which device? Okay, all right. So you already started that form? Okay. And then you need help on creating one, and once you get there, well, I can decide. But this presentation is not going over to create. Okay, so let's go to Fafsa. Go back. A, F, S, A. Yeah, right there. Once you go there, create an account. Okay, and then follow, all the demographics information. Okay. Alrighty. So once you are logged into your account, students, you're going to start the form, the 2627 FAFSA form. So on on the landing page, once you go to fafsa.gov, right here, you should see Start New Form. Make sure you are selecting 2627 FAFSA form. You're going to enter your username and password, students. This is your username and password, students. You're going to be prompted to verify either your cell phone number via text or your email. It takes a few minutes for you to receive an email verification. It takes about 5 seconds to receive a text, if you have good reception in the school. So, raise your hand if you still are trying to log in and get your verification text. Nobody? Okay. So, of course, once you get to this screen, students, it says, I am starting the FAFSA form as a student or parent. Students are going to do their part first. That is very important. Students need to do their part first, okay? All right. Then you're going to go through a series of onboarding videos. Just click through continue 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last video is going to say start form. Click on start form. Now, look at this screen right here. Now, if you're on your mobile device, it's a little more difficult to navigate, but it is possible. Now, students and parents, once you log in to your account, this screen here says Student Identity Information. Review the information below and verify that it's correct before moving forward. That means if your date of birth is not correct by 1 digit, you got to change it before you move forward. If your email address is not correct, you got to change it right here on this screen before you move forward. If your phone number has changed, if your address has changed, maybe you created your account in August and you've since moved and you need to change your your mailing address. Please do that before you move forward, or it will be a huge problem. How do you do that, Ms. Jackson? Right here it says account settings. Click on account settings and make that change. And it may not be anyone in here, but for the recording, I gotta say this, okay? Always change your information before you move forward. Any questions? Alrighty. Student state of residence, Georgia. When did you move to Georgia? Just type an estimate. If you were born here, you're going to put your month and year of birth. Student state of residence. All right, the next screen is going to be, you have to give your consent, students, to have the Department of Education to communicate with the Department of Treasury. Even if you've never filed taxes in your life, you still must provide your consent for the two systems to communicate with each other. So this screen is going to be a lot of reading. Just scroll down and click on approve. If you accidentally click decline, you got to do it over again, because if you click decline, the government is saying, oh, well, thank you for your time, we can't give you any money. You have to, non-negotiable, give your consent for the two systems to communicate. And the benefit of that is, in the past, parents and students will have to use their tax forms and go line by line and type in their information. With this new process, the systems communicate with each other, and it's an automatic, what do you call it? I lost the word. It transfers over automatically. That's a word for it. All right, so give your approval, move forward. It's going to say, we're securely importing your information. And if there's a match, you're going to go to the next screen. This is important, very important, especially for my families or my students who've already gone ahead. Some of you started your form last week, last night, and that is totally okay. But I need for you to pay attention or go back to personal circumstances. Let me tell you why. Most of my students make mistakes in this area right here, okay? Your personal circumstances. Depending on how you respond to these next few prompts will determine if you are considered a dependent or independent student. So it's very important that you read everything that's under your personal circumstances, okay? First, the student's marital status. Parents, if you are completing this for your child, make sure you pay attention to whose information they're requesting. It says student's marital status. So many times, students get to the end and say, based on your responses, you are married and you are independent. And the student's like, wait a minute, I'm not married, because this is where the mistake is making, right here. It's the student's marital status. But the parents are like clicking through. They see marital status and they automatically associate it with themselves, or the student automatically associates that status with their parents, okay? So you're going to select single. And then it says your student's college or career school plans. When the student begins the 26-27 school year, what will their college grade level be? You're going to select first year freshman, even if you have completed dual enrollment classes, okay? You still need to select first year freshman. And then at the bottom it says, when the student begins the 26-27 school year, will they already have their first bachelor's degree? You're going to select no and move forward. Continue. All right. Student personal circumstances. Check the box or the boxes that apply to your situation, student. Read through each one of these prompts. If they apply to you, check the box. If none of these apply to you, then check none of these apply. And I want to bring one of these to your attention. You can read through them yourself. One of these, the last, next to the last says, the student is or was in a legal guardianship with someone other than their parent or step-parent, as determined by a court in their state of residence. If you live with someone other than your biological parents, and that person or those people have legal guardianship of you as determined by the courts, then you will check that box. Now, this is kind of tricky. If you live with someone, students, other than your biological parents, and the person or people you live with do not have legal guardianship as determined by the court, then you cannot check that box. You can only check that box if legal guardianship was determined by a court in Georgia. Okay? So we have a lot of students, and I'll get to the next part. There's a difference between personal circumstances and special circumstances, okay? If you have a special circumstance, we'll go over that. There's some options for you. But for this case, you can only check this box if you live with someone other than your biological parent and they have legal guardianship of you, okay? If none of these apply to you, move forward. The next question, it may be on the same page, I can't remember. Student homelessness. At any time on or after July 1st, 2025, was the student unaccompanied and either homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? Now, I can't tell you how to answer this, but we do have students who live with someone other than their parents because maybe their parents were in and out of a motel and they decided to live with an aunt or uncle for stability. That could be considered at risk of being homeless. However, your counselor should know about that. Okay? And that means there's some paperwork that comes with that. So if you check this box as yes, you got to have documentation to support. You have to, that's why your counselor should know. If you don't live with your biological parents and because of, certain situations, and you are self-supporting or unaccompanied, then you can select yes, but you must provide documentation from your counselor. Alrighty? Any questions about that? Alright, can I move forward? Any questions before we move forward? Alright. Now, unusual circumstances are different. We just talked about personal circumstances, okay? Unusual circumstances. If the student is experiencing unusual circumstances such as the student left home due to an abusive or threatening environment, or the students are abandoned or estranged from their parents, have a refugee status and are separated from their parents, are a victim of human trafficking, or are incarcerated or their parents are incarcerated, and contact with the parents would pose a risk to the student or otherwise unable to contact or locate their parents. Now, if any of those unusual circumstances, if you identify with any of those unusual circumstances, you can select yes. And if you select yes, you will be considered an independent student on a provisional status. That means you will not have to provide your parents' information. However, you will have to provide documentation to support any of those unusual circumstances, okay? Let me repeat that again. If you identify with any of those unusual circumstances, you can select yes, and the system will determine that you are an independent student and you do not have to provide your parents' information, but this is on a provisional status, meaning you have to provide documentation to support your unusual circumstances. The documentation is different for each school. So whatever school you decide to go to, they will let you know what documentation they need to support your provisional independent status. Any questions? Okay, that's a good one. All right, so based on all of that you just entered as the student, the system automatically determines if you are a dependent student or an independent student. If the system determines that you are a dependent student, you must provide your parents' information. So the answer to this question on this screen as a dependent student is always no. This is another big mistake that students make on their application. For some reason, students default to yes without reading. I don't get it. Don't click yes right here. You're going to say no. Now let me explain for those of you who are watching this on video. When you click yes, you are saying, I know where my parents are, I don't get along with my parents, and I don't want to contact them. So just give me student loans. That's what that means when you say yes. I don't get along with my parents, I'm mad with them this week or this month. I'm going to do this on my own, so let me just click yes. And then they're going to say, okay, well, we only giving you student loans. We're not giving you Pell Grant or any other free money. Okay? Now, there are some cases that you have to click yes if you have an unusual circumstance, for example. But at any rate, you're going to click no if you are a dependent student. If the system has determined that you are an independent student, you do not have to provide your parents' information. Only dependent students have to do that. And I always get the question, because some people zone in and out, well, who determines if my student is dependent? Because he works, he has 3 jobs, he pays half of the bills. That's totally fine. But for the government, they say he's still dependent. Unless he's 24, grown, married with kids. Under 24, you can pay half of the mortgage and you're still dependent. Okay? So the government determines, based on how you responded to those previous questions, if you are dependent or independent. Any questions? Okay? Now, the student demographics, you guys can go through this pretty quickly. It's just asking, the student's sex, the student's ethnicity. You can go ahead and go through that. The student's citizenship status. Go ahead and click that and continue. Parents' education status. Whatever applies to your parents, click that and continue. Raise your hand if you have questions, because the rest of this is just pretty much the students are answering questions about their demographics. No questions? Okay. Were your parents killed in the line of duty? Yes or no? The student's high school information, you're going to enter Stone Mountain High School. Make sure you're choosing the correct Stone Mountain High School. There are other Stone Mountain High Schools in different states, so please choose the correct Stone Mountain High School in Georgia. Not in Alabama, Georgia. Any questions? No? Okay. All right. Finances. Now, let me say this. The form uses skip logic. And what is that, Ms. Jackson? Skip logic is a process or a system, or I don't know what the word is. But what happens is, depending on how you respond to certain questions, the system knows what questions to give you next. I say that because not everybody in here will have the same questions. Okay? The presentation that I'm sharing is under the assumption that you are a dependent high school senior and your parents are married filing a joint return. So, some of these screens will not look the same as what you have if you are separated or divorced, or if you file a separate return, okay? So, with that being said, student tax filing status. Students, did you or will you file 2024 taxes? Yes or no? Student, if you did not file or don't plan to file late your 2024 tax returns, student, you're going to say no. Parents, you will have these exact same questions, okay? The next question may or may not be on your screen. Did the student earn foreign income? No, most likely, unless you traveled overseas and worked and came back, and if you got some income in a different country, maybe you will say yes, but 99% of my seniors are going to say no, okay? Next section, your current total of cash, savings, and checking account. As of today, since you are filling out the application today, students, how much money do you have in your pocket, savings, and checkings account as of today, right now? Enter an estimate. If you have no money, because you just paid all your bills, 0, right? I can't tell you what to put, I'm just saying, like, but it's as of today. If you own, students, any investment properties, what's the net worth of those investment properties? Enter the amount. If you do not own any investment properties, what are you going to put? 0. Okay? If you don't know what that is, put 0. The next one, do you own a business? All the teenagers own businesses now these days. That's a good thing. Does it make you any money? Do you want to put that on there, right? Do you have a tax ID number, EIN number? So it says, enter the net worth of the students' businesses and income producing farms. So any businesses that you have, or if you own any farms for income. If you do not, or if you haven't made any money, no profit, it's not worth any money. Like if you sell candy at the school and that's your business, you're not, put 0. Okay? All right, this is where you're going to take a few minutes and select or find or enter at least 5 colleges that you want this form to go to. So you can enter to up to 20, right? But we're going to give you a few minutes to enter 5. Now let me say this. A couple of things. Let me put this down for a second. November is Apply to College Month. So many of the schools in the state of Georgia will waive their application fees. So even if it's a far-fetched decision, like I know I'm not going to Spelman, I know I'm not, but if you want to put them on the list, please do that, okay? And then like Georgia Tech or a technical school, it doesn't matter. But many of the schools in Georgia will waive their application fee in November. So at least put the schools on there,
okay? 5 schools. Let's do maybe 3 university schools, 2 technical schools, or 2 University of Georgia schools, a private school, and 2 technical schools, okay? And if you have time, do 6. You can always go back later and add additional schools. You can either log into your form after it's processed to add additional schools, or you can call them and say, hey, I want to add 5 more schools, okay? It's not a big deal. But this evening, I want you to at least enter 5 schools on your application. And you will see at the end what a financial aid package looks like and how you determine if you want to go to school A or school B based on who offers you the most money. Now, 80% of the time, if you do not list the school on your FAFSA, they will not send you a financial aid package, okay? That's why it's important for you to enter the school on there at least. So if you decide to apply, at least they have your financial aid package or your financial aid summary, okay? So go ahead and take a few minutes and enter some schools on your form. If you do not know the city, but you know the state, just enter the state and then search the school name, okay? Because sometimes it's like, I don't know if it's in, I want to go to UCLA. What part of California is that? If you don't know, just enter California and just go through the schools until you choose the one. Alabama, if you want to go to a school in Alabama, but you don't know what city, if you put the wrong city, the school is not going to pop up. So don't put anything for the city. Put the state and take your time and go through the schools in that state. If you know for a fact you want to go back to Indiana with your family, then go click on Indiana and then go look at the schools in Indiana and put them on your form. Are there any questions? Anybody need assistance with anything while we wait for our students to enter their schools? Nope? Okay. It's a good little group. I was all over the place last week. So important. Listen up, students. In order for your parents to receive their invitation, you have to invite them with the exact name and information that's in the parent's account, okay? You have to use the name down to the middle initial. You can't make a typo with the middle initial. The date of birth has to be right. The email address has to be correct. So, go ahead and click on Continue to invite your parent as a contributor. Now, let me say this. The question that I always receive is, do I invite both of my parents? What if I live with da-da-da-da? So, here's the rule of thumb. Students always start the application first. Student invites one parent. Even though both parents may have to fill out the form, and I'll tell you how you will know that, you still only want to invite one parent. Then that one parent will invite the second parent if necessary. Don't invite both parents. Invite one parent. When you invite that parent, make sure you invite that parent with their username, with their email address and the name. If you don't know what name you use for your account, parents, log in right now on a different device. Log into your account and make sure that your student is typing the exact name and email address that's in your account. Now, if you live with your biological parents, students, and they are married, and they file a joint return, only one parent will need to sign have a student aid account. If your parents are married and they file a joint return, only one parent, that one parent you invite, will need to do the student aid account. If your parents are married and they file a separate return, both parents will need to create a student aid account and do their part of the FAFSA. You are still only going to invite one parent student. And then that parent number one will invite the parent number two when prompted. If you live with a biological parent and a step parent, for FAFSA purposes, those are your parents. One of the questions students will have is, are your parents married? Automatically, students are thinking about their biological parents. So they're thinking, my mom and my dad are not married. However, I live with my mom and she remarried. Then that person she remarried is considered your parent for FAFSA. Okay? If the other parent helps support, that's none of the government's business. They want to know who you live with, and those are your parents. Okay? If you have a situation where you live with both parents half of the time, like maybe half of the year I'm with my mom, half of the year I'm with my dad, you're still going to invite that one parent. There are going to be questions to say, does the parent you live with now provide more than 50% of financial support? If the answer is yes, then that's your parent for FAFSA. And this is probably no one in here, but just for the record, if you live with your mom the same amount of time that you live with your dad, whomever makes the most money is the one who's your parent for FAFSA. Okay? Any questions? All righty. So go ahead and invite your parents, one parent. Enter the parent's email address. It cannot be an email they just created unless that email is in their student aid account. Whatever email address is in the parent's student aid account must be the same email address that you're going to use right here. Same name. If your parent does not have a middle initial on their student aid account, then don't add the middle initial when you invite them. It has to be exact. All right, once you do that, it's going to say, it says once your parent accepts the invitation, the parent has to accept the invitation, check your email, they can complete the parent section of the FAFSA form. They may be asked to invite their spouse, maybe. That's why we say invite one parent, because if the other parent needs to be invited, the first parent will do that part, okay? So invite the parent. They're going to receive an email, or you can send them the text, copy the link and send them a text and say, hey, here's the code to complete my federal application. Once you do that, you're going to move forward. And then you're going to have an opportunity, students, to check your responses before you sign your application. This screen here, with all the green checks, is an indication that you've completed that part. But you always want to click on the drop-down arrow just to do a quick overview to make sure you've entered the right information. And parents, if you are doing this for your student, you want to make sure you've entered the right information for the right child, especially if you have more than one child in school, okay? Don't put Johnny's date of birth and it should have been June's date of birth, okay? Double check before you move forward. Once everything is accurate, go ahead and click continue. Put a check box by your name, student. Sign. Voila. Student is done with their part. All right? And it says, pending submission. We're still waiting for your contributor to do his or her part before your application is complete. This is an invitation that the parents will receive in their email, or you can just log into your federal aid account. Now the parent Student, you must log out if you're using the same device that your student used. Student logs out, parent logs in with his or her username and password. If you're using a different device, that is totally fine. Students can keep theirs up. Parents, you log in with your username and password. Now, if you just created your username and password today or last night, then parents, then it takes